Over under on how long the PFL stays in business.
Okay, I'm going to say this about Don Davis. You know, people can sit there and say what they want as far as he doesn't know the fight game and all that stuff. Look, no one knows the fight game until they're in it and really starting to understand how difficult it is to be the person in charge of a promotion and all the things that come with it. And yeah, he doesn't understand the fighting aspect. But if there's one thing I'll give Don Davis, that man's a businessman, and he's a absolute fantastic person as far as getting investors for his promotion. He is so good at raising money. I'm watching right now. It's funny because I actually kind of compared the two. I'm watching this thing on the old Dallas Cowboys when Jimmy Johnson was the coach there, and you know the whole thing that happened with the firing of Tom Landry, and to listen to Jerry Jones is very interesting as far as, you know, what the way that I perceived him as a person and the way that, you know, he comes off in this as far as, you know, he talks about, you know, being able to, you know, borrow money and how many times he was so upside down, you know, in the borrowing of money. And that's Don Davis and stuff, but you got to take those chances and you got to do these things to be successful. And eventually everything worked for him. And, you know, the squabble between, you know, Jimmy Johnson and Jerry Jones as far as who gets credit for what and those things. And I look at Don Davis very much like a Jerry Jones. You know, Jerry Jones liked football, was part of football as a college athlete with Arkansas. He played on the same team as Jimmy Johnson. They won the NC2As the year that he was a senior. All these great things happened. And then he decides, I'm going to hire Jimmy Johnson as my coach. And you look and you go, he made a lot of mistakes, but he made a lot of really good things happen based upon taking chances, being able to raise money. And I'm going to say Don Davis is one of the best I've ever seen at raising capital for the PFL. Eventually, that's got to come to an end. And so things have got to kind of turn as far as them receiving funds for their product. Right now, with the UFC leaving ESPN, you know, I think they have an absolute opportunity to make a deal with ESPN because right now ESPN's not paying them for their product. And so can they get ESPN to give them some funding based upon, hey, we're going to provide this many fights, you know? And when you sit there and you look at all the fights that they have that they can actually do because of doing this PFL MENA, PFL Africa, PFL Europe, and then the PFL here, they have enough fights that they can do that and, you know, provide a product and a good product for ESPN. Are they going to be able to get that done? I don't know, but I will give Don Davis credit as a financier and an investment guy. He's done a phenomenal job of raising money.
Yeah, what they did was they hired a guy named John Martin. So he's a former Turner and Time Warner executive. He's basically going to help them try to get either more money out of their TV network deal with ESPN, or he's going to take them to another network.
He took over for Peter Murray.
Yeah. So he's going to provide a different try to provide a different platform for them to separate them from the UFC. Now the UFC is leaving ESPN, but do they still want to be associated with ESPN based on the fact that it was kind of UFC's platform? So where can they go? Where can they go to, you know, that will pay them as well? Who's going to provide them some sort of financial backing? Is I think what John Martin is there to do.
Yeah.
And he bring in some dollars along with some representation from wherever they get their money from, whether it's the Middle East, whether it's from Asia, whatever.
But you got to think about this, Josh. You know, when you look at ESPN, I kind of, you know, I put it in the same text as CNN. And when I say, you know, CNN doesn't get anyone to watch their shit as far as I'm going to turn on CNN, but they are on. And, you know, how many airports have you been in and you go to a restaurant or a bar inside to sit there and wait for your flight, but what's up on the screen? If you go into the lounge, what's up on the screen? CNN or ESPN if it's the bar. And so at least people, you know, even people that normally wouldn't see the PFL if it's on ESPN, they have a chance of seeing it and going, hey, what is that? And getting interested in what's going on. Well, what is that, the UFC? That's the first thing that's going to cross their mind. But when they realize it's not, hey, maybe you can pick up some people that, enjoy, watching your fighters and your promotion. I always look at ESPN as if you're going to be in sports, it's a great place to be.
Yeah. I agree. I just think they need to find a way to get more money from ESPN for not a better production, but something to do with this whole lag in between fights, the pacing of their fights. It's gotten a little bit better.
It's gotten better.
Yeah, it's gotten a little bit better in this last year, in this last 8 months,
Yeah, 2025 has been their best year.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. They figured out kind of the old tournament style was a joke. This tournament style is the best fighter moves on. That's what people want to see.
Yep.
It's easy to remember who won. And then, oh, look, when I see this fight again, it's going to be the guy that I saw who won. It's not going to be the guy who won the first one. Oh, wait, what happened to him? Oh, he won again, but he didn't have enough points, so he didn't advance. But the guy that he beat, he's in the tournament.
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense.
No.
So if you're the casual fan, it's a lot harder to follow that way. And you're trying to, at this stage, the PFL is trying to gather casual fans. Absolutely. They are trying to get as many fans as they possibly can to watch.
Sure.
The PFL's got a good group of fighters. They can do a lot of great things. And they're, like you hit the nail on the head earlier in this Q&A, is you need to build homegrown athletes. Strikeforce did a great job of it. Bellator was starting to do it with Aaron Pico, AJ McKee, other fighters, right? They really try to build their own athletes. When you build your own athletes, then the comparisons come where they say, well, what happens if this guy fought this guy? Because they don't cross-reference them against anybody else. It wasn't like on the smaller show in LFA or RFA or wherever it was. They didn't Fury fights, whatever it is. You didn't see them fight or they didn't have interaction with them. So you're actually growing this person from your promotion all the way up. Aaron Pico had 0 fights and fought in Bellator. AJ McKee, I think, had 1 and it was in Bellator. Lucas Brennan.
No, I think all of his.
Or all of AJ's.
He had an amateur fight that Scott Coker saw.
Okay.
But I think it was an amateur, so all of his.
Yeah, Lucas Brennan. I think almost all of his fights were in Bellator.
Yep.
So there was, like, building those homegrown athletes is so important because now you can't compare them to anybody else because they've only fought in the one organization. It makes it easier for the hype to start. Hey, can this guy beat this guy? Can this guy? There's no other sample size outside of your promotion. It's very important. Think about guys that were built inside Strikeforce. Daniel Cormier, Luke Rockhold. I mean, I would say Tim Kennedy, like Yoel Romero. Like, these guys, sure, they were good athletes, good wrestlers, all these things, but they were built inside, the Strikeforce cage.
Yep.
Look, Gilbert Melendez had a good following. He fought in the Pride, the Dream tournament. He fought in Dream.
Yeah.
Okay, but then he came to Strikeforce. He had fought against those guys over there, but then he came to Strikeforce, and it was like, oh man, this guy's really good. Like, he wasn't homegrown, built in Strikeforce, but his career took off in Strikeforce.
No, his star started to shine brighter because
the WC had him first, then he went to Dream, and then he came to Strikeforce. Yeah, and then that relationship grew, and there was just fighters. Like Nate Diaz had I think one of his first fights was in Strikeforce. Cain Velasquez, his first fight was in Strikeforce.
Yeah.
There's
Cain
a lot of fighters.
Fights.
What's that?
Cain couldn't get fights.
He couldn't get fights. It was so sad. Element, the best hydration drink in the business. I had citrus earlier today. It's actually fantastic. And now they're making the lemonade salt in the can. Cannot wait. So if you guys use that link down below in the descriptions, they'll send you a bonus package with every single purchase. That's compliments of the Wayne In podcast. So hope you guys enjoy that.